All right, guys. We're gonna be talking about off curve decks or rush decks. Not necessarily rush though, just off curve.
Yeah.
I guess rush is sort of a variety of it. In versus system today. This is the old versus system. I'm sure
Yep.
some of it will apply to the remix. So I guess like as with any deck, I would say the first thing you should do is sort of figure out like how it is you're going to win or how you plan to win. Um, whether that's going to be through combat or like something else. And I say something else because for something like this, I would consider a deck like Rigged Elections to be a swarm deck.
Mm,
Because it's sort of a battle. It's a combo deck, but it's definitely like a swarm deck. You need
yeah.
to get a bunch of characters out, and then once you have your pieces in place, you just get 25 counters on Rigged Elections, and the game ends. Um, so there's probably like I've definitely like built decks that are like basically stall decks that are just running like a lot of little characters as well. So I mean you can do just about anything, but there's certain ways I guess that you have to things that you have to keep in mind when you're building.
Okay.
So I would say that biggest one, the biggest problem that you're going to run into playing like an undercurve deck that you won't run into with a curve deck is your hand's going to run out. So the way the system's really designed with like four cards in hand, drawing two cards is you play one resource, you play one character, and then you have like your four cards in hand for like plot twists or power ups or whatever else. So if you play two characters like from your hand, then all of a sudden like you're going down a card. Um, and obviously like this will get like worse and worse like the more characters you play. Like if you play like three one drops on turn three, all of a sudden like you're going to be down to like two cards in hand.
Yeah.
So then I guess that's compounded by any time you have to play like a plot twist from your hand or anything else. Like your hand is really gonna be like hurting, and obviously then you're only drawing two cards a turn, so it can basically like you can run out of cards like really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, like you're gonna need to find a way to draw extra cards as you go. A lot of times, like decks will run like Birthing Chamber. That's a pretty generic answer where like you draw a card. I think if it's you control,
Four.
I think four or more, and then
Yep.
if it's like six or more, you like draw two and discard one or something. So
Mm-hmm.
like you get to at least like filter so that your card's better. Um, there's other things too. I mean, like characters that draw cards. Like plot twisted draw cards. Like one of the sort of premier like rush decks is Syndicate, and they have characters that draw cards, but they also have I'm gonna butcher it. The one with Goblin on it, where it's like if you control more characters than you have resources, you draw two cards.
Oh, that's not. That's not. Oh, that's not Sinister Choice. That's some. Oh,
No, I can't
I
remember the
forget
name
the
of it.
name. Oh man, I forget the name. Yeah,
I should have
it's
looked it
okay.
up and had some
Yeah,
notes.
yeah. I do.
But I mean, just
Yeah,
cards like that.
yeah.
Um,
I know that's the biggest thing when I've played Swarm decks. Like the only Swarm deck I've really ever played, I guess, would be Brotherhood or JLA. So they actually not JLA, Green Lantern. So they actually
mhm,
have like Birthing Chamber or ways to get other or like Genosha to get cards into your hand. So like Rob
gotcha.
said, you always want to try to supplement, and it doesn't mean you have to like drop three one drops on one. You can play like a two or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, but right, but that's the thing is like if your plan is to basically like have a field of like lower characters, like you're going to be playing like more than one per turn, and the more turns you have to do that, the more stress it's going to put in your hand. So you
Mm-hmm.
just need to find a way to like mitigate that. And the other thing is especially, and this is like especially if you're like combat oriented, um, when like on offense you can team attack, so like that's usually okay for like the early game, really. I would say probably up until like five or six it starts getting tough. But so like you can probably attack like with like a one and a two, like you can probably take on like a three drop with like a like two twos, like or like a two and a three, maybe not two twos, like two and a three, like you can take on a four drop,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. But honestly, even maybe like a one and a three. But um, you're gonna have problems like on defense because like a lot of your characters won't naturally stun back. And so what that means is that your opponent will be able to attack your characters, stun a bunch of them, and then you're either gonna like not like you're gonna not trade. So then if you want to like stun their characters, then you're gonna have to like attack into them, and more characters are gonna get stunned. So like basically you'll start like losing field also because like you're not trading in combat. I mean, this is sort of the thing where like if you're combat oriented, like you can run pumps that work on offense or defense. Um, Even just like little stuff like what is it? I think Tooth and Nail and
Heard of
Locked in Combat, I think is the name of the
kind
one
of like
from Green
generic
Lantern.
ones. Yeah,
It's
like
like
generic
it
ones.
just gives
Yeah.
you like +2, -2.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones, stuff like for like Syndicate again, there's Planet of the Symbiotes that gives you +3 attack on offense or defense. There's I think they have a location too that gives you like attack on
Hmm.
offense or defense, just stuff like that. I mean, you
If
can
you have
always run like
X-Men,
Nasty
yeah,
Surprise, but the problem with
yeah,
Nasty Surprise is like
defense.
that's not going to help you when you're attacking.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you really want the cards to sort of go like either way. There's also field pumps, which I guess is one of the things for if you're like trying to figure out like if you want to play a swarm deck but you don't know what team. Like, if you just sort of like the style, but like, you don't really know what you want to build. Um Basically like New Brotherhood. Brotherhood's a good one. TMB gives your whole field like +2 attack.
Hmm.
They also have Next Brotherhood, which is only for the turn. Syndicate has something like that. Spider Hunt. They also have like Carnage. So like they have
Yeah.
a couple different ways to do it. Um, there was another one I was thinking of. Oh, Faces. So like that's not as fast, but it's like a similar thing. And that's like a team up for Masters of Evil and Thunderbolts, and it gives all your characters cost 3 or less, +1 while attacking. I think just attacking period, right? It's not while attacking
Yeah, I
character.
think it's just while attacking.
Honor Among Thieves, like, but that's. But yeah, I mean, so it's just these sort of things that like statically will kind of like help you make up for like some of the attack difference. The other thing is like like maybe some like recovery cards or something else. So like a lot of sort of stall decks that are playing a lot of small characters end up being like Child Named Valeria variants because like that card's nuts. If you right, I don't. If you're not familiar, it's if you control Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic, characters you have cost 3 or less can't be stunned this turn. So like between that and if you have a way to like reinforce, a lot of times people just run
Yeah.
like Catcher's Mitt. Um,
Hmm.
as long as you can keep finding a way to get back Child Named Valeria, like the game can go on like just about as long as you want it to. Um, there are like a lot of variants like that. I think Rigged Elections probably runs it. I have no idea what Rigged Elections decks look like now.
I couldn't
Big
even
runs
tell
it.
you.
I know like Fat Bat ran it. Um, what else? I mean, obviously there was like Child Lock that was like a deck. Um, yeah, I mean just things like that, or if you're running something like there's other recovery effects. So like something like Outsiders, they definitely have sort of like a undercurve themes.
Hmm.
Um, what's the recovery card? I think it's something where I think you like return a character and like
Oh,
recover
yep.
another one.
Yeah.
Or that might be Foil Assassination. That might be
Oh,
Legion.
I'll take a look. Let me see. I'll find
Um,
it.
Outsiders might just have like Booze and Elementals, which I think is return a card and then draw 2, discard 2. But that's the thing. It's like stuff that returns to hand. I mean, that's kind of how Kree works, where they just kind of like replay their field every turn.
That deck is a swarm deck in. I mean, that deck's a swarm deck, but it's really a curve deck. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
because fuck that deck.
but yeah, I mean, those are the big things. Like the two biggest issues, I guess, to sort of come back are a way to mitigate like hand loss and then a way to sort of mitigate the problems that you're going to have in combat, like the longer the game goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, those are going to basically be your primary obstacles. Um,
What card are they looking up again? I forget. Does it matter now?
it's just an outsider's card.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I don't remember the name.
I'll look it up.
So, and then I guess that's the other thing, right? So then there's going to be sort of like combat tricks you can run,
Oh, Naboo's Elementals drew you cards.
but
You,
does it return something to your hand?
yeah, you return a
Okay.
character you control to your hand, and then you draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, stuff like that is just, it's not a recovery effect, but it basically just takes a character that was going to be KO'd anyway and
Well,
puts it back into your hand so that you can replay it again. So,
so in theory, you
um,
technically get 3 cards back because you draw 2, then discard 2, right? No, I don't know.
you
Okay.
basically just like get rid of cards you don't want and
There
get
you
cards
go.
you want. So,
Let's see
and you return a card from your played hand.
Alright.
So I guess that's it, right? So like, there's other ways to sort of get characters out too. Um, the biggest one was like Dr. Light. Obviously, I mean, he went in like everything, and
Yeah.
he was in like a decent number of these sort of like swarm type decks. But
Then he was banned.
yeah, obviously he's banned. Um, there's other stuff now though. Like, so one of the big ones, I guess, is Moloids, like the Doomed Earth stuff. Which there's another card that pumps your whole field. Um, so Moloids, like, there's multiple ways to sort of get extra ones in play from your discard pile. Not like the main one is going to be on the character that you can like exhaust a character that's in play if it's Mole Man or Doctor Doom. But that deck also has other stuff. Like you have 4-drop Mr. Fantastic, so you can play him on like 4 or 5 and like get free cards out of the discard pile.
Okay.
You can also play Armies of Doom, which brings a character in for the turn. So someone Master of Evil has a similar card. For Hard Sound Construct.
Oh, that card's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of things like that, and what those will sort of let you do is cheat your field without necessarily like losing a card from your hand. Um, yeah, I guess that's the thing is right, getting characters into play from like means other than like recruiting them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Nope.
let's see.
I'm still looking.
Guess.
I haven't found it yet. I'm still looking. I haven't found it yet.
They may not have like a recovery one. I might be thinking.
I thought they did, but I'm looking.
I know for a fact that Foiled Assassination is a Legion card.
Yeah. Yeah, that one I know. Oh, also Revenge Squad has a team up that gives front row characters a dimensional deal. That also gives +1 a field for front row.
Yeah, I mean they have
yeah.
They have Battle for Metropolis too,
Yep.
which is a thing.
Yeah, they got tons of that stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean that's I guess what else? I guess like do you have any other things like playing with them against them? I mean,
I know.
do you have any particular decks in mind or
Well, the two that I always I like I said the ones I always played was TMB and which basically went up. It was a no, I don't know. I guess TMB was a swarm, but it capped off on 5.
So those are really called like short curve.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of the same as like no hand like Squadron,
Mm-hmm.
where basically like ideally you're gonna go like 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and so on.
Yeah.
But you basically load up on those early drops for 2 reasons. The first is that you really, really want to hit your characters on 1 and 2. And the other thing is like your characters are all pretty good.
Sorry.
So like basically on turn 3, if you have to play a 2 and a 1, like that's fine.
Yeah.
Or if you are on like turn 4 and you have to play like 2 2s or a 3 and a 1, like again that's fine.
Yeah.
So those are sort of decks where like it's not necessarily your intention to go. I sort of had a tough time with that because like in some ways, I mean even like Doomed Earth is like that. I think it runs like 1 or 2 copies of the 6-drop Doom.
Sure.
But it's the same sort of thing where like ideally I'm gonna go like curve up, but if I can't, like that's fine.
Yeah.
And so like decks like that are gonna be more right, what you would call like sort of short curve,
Mm-hmm.
where they're running those higher cost characters, but if they have to drop like multiple lower characters, like they're
Sure.
fine with that.
Another thing too with swarm decks are they're more apt to have tech cards in decks against them because usually people tech against swarm decks more than they tech against curve decks because
Hmm.
a curve deck normally would have
I mean,
you know
right, your tech against a curve deck is like
yeah
run finishing
is
move.
run finishing move but
Yeah.
like a way to KO their biggest character every turn
Hmm.
but like with swarm decks you always run you against swarm decks flame trap was a card um if you were playing like Sentinel, Search and Destroy, there were cards that teched against like stunning lower drops or like Dick
Yeah, I mean,
Grayson
so
four
that thing,
drop.
it's like there's
Yeah.
definitely cards that you can run to try to sort of answer that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things for Faces. They had Fixer, who just sort of had like a static ability that like basically stuff couldn't be stunned by, I think, plot twists.
Yeah.
Um,
Or payment
there's,
effects.
hmm,
I think it was also payment effects.
it might
It
be.
did two things. I know that.
Um, and when they teamed up when with X-Men and X-Faces, they also got the there was an ongoing plot twist that like you could play to get +3 attack, and then it was like physical characters couldn't be like stunned outside of combat.
Okay.
I'm blanking on it. Might have been called like Survival of the Fittest or something. But they had like a team up that made everyone mutants. And so that's the thing is like with cards like that, you can sort of get around that. Obviously, again, we come back to like Child Named Valeria.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but all those are gonna basically just be like meta things. I mean,
Yeah.
like right, if everyone that you know is like packing like flame traps or whatever, or like Reign of Terror or whatever, if your best buddy is like a big Doom player, like off curve might not be like
Yeah. It might
the
not be your
best.
jam. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Because I remember. What was it? I was at an event running Cosmic Cops, and
Mhm.
um, I got flame trapped because I couldn't get the Alfred out to get the fizzle in my hand fast enough, and I got yeah. It was bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was bad.
I mean, I guess that's the thing too, right? So like right, if you're doing like X-Men stuff, I mean, you could run like what's that card? Not heroic sacrifice. The other one, like the one with Colossus, where he's like sacrificing himself for the
Oh
Legacy
yeah, yeah.
Riders.
It wasn't heroic sacrifice. I forget what a card is, but I know what you're talking about. It's from
Yeah,
Spider Man. Yeah, I know that.
yeah, where he would basically KO somebody to like recover everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so right, if you want to try to run like an X-Men swarm is definitely like something you could do.
Mm-hmm.
You have that. You
Yeah,
have like the
turnabout
attack pumps with turnabout. So like
and
I
battle.
guess that's the thing is like those are sort of like some of the tools you want to look at. I mean, there's definitely cues that like the cards give you of like, hey, maybe consider running like lower drops.
Yeah, because
Um,
like X Men's very popular. Because like if you watch the Guile treatment this week, we talked about the X Men preview cards for the remix, and
mhm.
those cards kind of lent to a swarm deck. And even in classic versus, they had what Blackbird's blue and black and the regular Blackbird always like gave your characters flight and like +2/+2 or +2 attack and flight, and they had like
Oh, you know
hair.
what? I
Yeah.
guess one of the other things too with constructing a deck like this that might be different than like a curve deck. So like a curve deck, usually have like the drop that you want on each turn, right? So you have like your 3 drop, your 4 drop, your 5 drop, whatever. Maybe you have like a secondary like option, or you might have like one of or something as like a tech card because you have search. So you're just like, well, if I don't, if I'm running up against this, maybe I want like this particular drop instead of my like main 4 drop. But for the most part, you're just running probably like 4x, 4x, 4x
Mm-hmm.
with sort of like an undercurve or like swarm deck. You can also run into the issue of uniqueness a lot more because like you're always kind of playing like the same characters. So like there are characters that you'll play 4x of. For instance, like if you're doing like a Masters of Evil thing, like you're running 4x of the 2 drop Beetle Armor Smith because he's nuts. He's like a search card. He like is Master of Evil, so he turns on your hard sound construct. I mean, whatever. He's awesome. So you're going to run 4 of him. And what that sort of means is if you have the opportunity to like use him as like an attacker where he's going to get stunned back or whatever, like he's somebody that basically like you'll get like if he's stunned, like you don't recover him, you'll recover somebody else instead.
Yeah.
But there will be lots of other cards where you don't want to run them at 4x. You probably want to run them at like a 1x or a 2x. And the reason being that if you have those cards in play and you draw the other copy of it, like you can't play it.
Yeah.
And if your whole sort of thing is predicated on like getting all these characters out in play, you're going to start like the more characters you start getting out, the harder it's going to be to get new characters out if like you start drawing like multiples.
Because even with low drops, power ups sometimes don't even matter. So like,
well, but it's also, I mean, I don't really know. Like powering up as a sort of a rule is like unless you're running like a power up deck, like it's always a little.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying like in a pinch, you can always power up, but like, if you're running like a 1 drop or a 5 drops,
you don't need +1 attack. You need like plus, +3.
You need like a savage beatdown or something bigger. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so you really want to be sort of like diversifying your character pool, and like so the other option is to run sort of like army characters. So like Cosmic Cops does that with Gotham Knights or GCPD officers. Moloids, obviously you're running like a bunch of like 1-drop army characters. There's multiple man decks that work because like 1-drop, like all the 1-drop and 2-drop multiple mans are army, and then the 5-drop isn't, but it doesn't matter because the other ones are army, so they're not unique. So like that kind of thing. I guess one of the oldest sort of flood or like decks was Wild Vomit.
Oh yeah.
Which was all like basically all Wild Sentinel was a 1-drop, and Mark was it 6?
Is that the 4-drop?
Or Mark 4? I don't know. It was the 4-drop, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that would get around it by like basically like so that got around like all the hand size things by just using long shot and just calling those two, so you would just try to get as many copies of these cards in hand as possible.
Hey, look,
I think they had Field Pump too, right? I think they had like combat protocols or something like that, where like all your Sentinel army characters would get like a bonus.
Yeah, it wasn't an ongoing, but it was, I think you called the team
just for the turn.
I think you called it the team affiliation, and they got that bonus for attacking that team affiliation. Yeah.
So I mean, it was also early, so like stats weren't as much of an issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can also look for out of combat stun type stuff. The ones that are gonna spring to mind are gonna be like fastball special, maybe Power Nexus if you're running X-Men.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that card.
I mean, that's the thing is like on defense, like sure I'll exhaust like 4 characters to stun a 3-drop or whatever, or 4-drop. I don't know if it's equal or less than. But like it's just the kind of thing where it's like if your defender isn't gonna stun somebody back, like try to find something else to do it. And then outsiders, they have like the 3-drop like Dr. Light, like Kimio Yoshi.
Yeah.
And they also have like Batman and the Outsiders. So, but those are going to be for like combat oriented stuff. So I mean, that thing is you have a lot of options. But again, it mostly just comes back to how are you going to make up for like eating up your hands?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do to sort of like mitigate the fact that you're going to basically like you're going to lose one-on-one fights with your characters.
Yeah.
For sure. Unless you're just running like a ton of pumps, which that works.
I mean, like outsiders do. They have like a +6 and I think a +6 attack pump on attack and defense, so they can always.
I think it's just defense.
Is it just defense? I think it is.
Yeah, Fighting the Liar. I think it's +7.
Yeah,
but
it's a pretty good one. Yeah, the outsiders were a different kind of a weird team, because they like to reset their attacks to do like the multiple out of combat stuns and stuff. So they did some pretty cool stuff. So
yeah, but yeah, I mean that's basically like what you're going to be looking for. Trying to think if there's anything else.
I think the big one is that you hit with was the hand size thing. That's a big problem with it, especially with like newer players. They're just going to dump as many characters out on the board. So you want to find stuff to mitigate all that.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like that's the one that you're gonna find the easiest is you're just gonna like play your stuff and then you're gonna go, I don't have any cards left.
Then you're playing Heart of the Cards, you.
Well,
Yeah.
right, and all of a sudden you're drawing like 2 cards and your opponent's playing a 5-drop and you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Yep.
If you, I don't have anything, I think you covered it pretty well. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below.
Yeah, I mean,
we do read it.
That's that thing is, I mean, I could talk about like any specific deck, but it's gonna just sort of be the thing where what works for that deck may not work for like something else.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we got for today. Like I said, leave comments below if you have any questions. Talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Later.